Hi, my name's Ian All. I am the CTO for Permiso's P0 Labs. We are an identity security company with a focus really on threat detection. And today I'm going to be talking to you about non-human identity threats and the connection to the humans behind them. So let's get into it first with a little introduction to myself. Again, my name is Ian. I got my start in the industry roughly 20 years ago in the Marine Corps before starting a small company called Tech Defense. Really gained my feet though at Mandiant, where I did incident response work for about 10 years before coming over here to Permiso to lead up the research division. And just last week, named CTO from where I used to be as the SVP of P0 Labs. Quick little side note. I enjoy making video games in my spare time. So if you ever want to play some poorly drawn pixel art versions of myself or my teammates fighting some cloud baddies, check out Permiso Survivors here. And I also promised that when I created this pixel art, I did, in fact, have a beard that long. All right, so let's get started. Quick primer. What is an NHI? Hey, this is NHI Summit, so I imagine most of you are pretty familiar with what non-human identities are, but we're going to spend just a minute to quickly go through that here. So first, human identities. What are human identities? These are your classic username, password, Active Directory users, local IAM users for your various platforms, often through federated logins, often not. But your typical user accounts, when people talk about the types of identities they have in environments, often they're talking about their human identities. We won't spend too much time here. But on the opposite side of that, we have non-human identities. And sometimes you'll hear them referred to as machine identities or even like service accounts or something like that. Instead, what are non-human identities? These are credentials that are meant for programmatic access. Great examples of these are like AWS access keys, service principals in Azure, OAuth tokens, and then maybe more recently, even getting into AI agents, AI chatbots, and the like. So human federated access very typically, also local, meant for interactive usage. Non-human identities, these are programmatic access. And when it comes down to like the management of these credentials, oftentimes your non-human identities are just not managed as well as your human identities. The processes around them, the detection methods around them just haven't grown up quite as much. Now, to talk a little bit more about actual threats in here, I figured we'd just walk through an actual example, a real attack, so that you understand what typical NHI threats look like. And we're going to use my favorite group for this. We're going to be using an incident that we help the client through on the Scattered Spider side. So if you're familiar with Scattered Spider, this will be a pretty fun incident for you to talk through. And one thing that you're going to notice as we go through this is there's rarely any attack that just is human or just is non-human. Really, there's both involved in all cases, and that's what I really want to highlight during this. If you're just looking at one, you're not going to really see it. There's a connection between the two, and I'm going to show you with Lucre 3 here, our name for Scattered Spider, what that looks like. So, okay, Lucre 3. You're going to hear me say Lucre 3 a lot. That is our name for this group. So if you hear me say Lucre 3, just know we're talking about somebody you probably know better as Scattered Spider, or if you're a Mandiant shop, UNC3944. Some people call this group Octopus, Roasted Octopus, various forms of Octopus. And then Microsoft has changed names a couple of times here, but Storm 0875 is what their primary name for this group is. But you may know them better from the Octo Tempest days there too. That's all your AKAs for this group. I know we got a lot of different names for various threat groups, and that could be hard to follow. So let's talk about what a real attack looks like from this group. And again, some of you're here at this NHI Summit and you're thinking, why are we talking about a Scattered Spider attack? Azure AD, compromised identities are not non-human identities. These are the classic human identities, in fact. What I hope to really convey to you is, sure, that's how these start, but there's a lot of non-human identity components to every one of these attacks as well. So let's talk about what does a typical scatter spider intrusion look like. Everything that you're seeing in this flowchart comes from an actual scatter spider attack that we helped the client through. Everything that you see in there occurred over the course of about 72 hours, which is very typical for this group. From initial access all the way to data theft, ready for extortion, and 72 hours is not uncommon at all. And the flow of these attacks is very similar across the board. It is initial access through your IDP. Now this could be with some bought credentials. This could be with directly social engineering the help desk, as it's been with more recent cases with this group. But regardless, they gain access to a credential within your environment, quickly set up their own MFA as well. So they have what looks to be legitimate access, continuous access into the environment. And then from the IDP, now that they've logged in and have access, they want to carry out their mission as fast as possible. What is the mission for this group? Oftentimes, data theft for extortion, sometimes disruption of service for extortion by deploying ransomware or various other things. But their first step after getting through the IDP is always very similar. It is click into your own SaaS applications and start searching for things that are going to help them carry out their mission, such as more credentials, such as technical documentation around your VPN usage, your VDI infrastructure. Where do you keep your ESX boxes? They're going to use your SaaS applications like any other human would, any other user would, to search and find documentation around how your environment is configured, the people and processes that are in them, so that they can use those people and processes to carry out their mission. Now, once they've learned enough in your SaaS environments, that's when we see them move into some of these other layers like, hey, well, now let's go into AWS and do a little data theft. Let's go into your CI/CD pipeline and do a little data theft there. Let's pivot to on-prem through your own VPN so we could do some ransomware deployment from your ESSI boxes. Whatever that mission happens to be, they're enabling it through that initial access to your IDP and then touching your SaaS to learn about your environment. Now, take a second, look at this chart up here and think about in this scenario, what components of this attack look to be human versus non-human. And in a second here, I'm going to flip the slide and I'll show you with a little indicator where non-human identity were involved in this attack. All right, so 3, 2, and all right, hope I gave you enough time. Okay, so every place where you see a little bug here, that is where you have NHIs involved. Sometimes it's the collection of NHIs that they can use later. Sometimes it's the utilization of the NHI itself. So if we take a look at this AWS side, for instance, S3 enumeration, man, they really love to use a tool called S3 browser to do S3 enumeration. What is the method for access in S3 browser? Well, you give it an access key. You could give it a temporary access key like an ASIA session token, but most people just give it a long-lived access key, an AKA. That's what this attacker likes to do as well. They will find long-lived access keys within your environment rather than create new ones, plug them into S3 browser, and then have the ability to go search around in your buckets as the credential with whatever privileges that credential already had. So we're going to go into full depth on kind of each of these layers here in a moment, but this is the part I really wanted to convey to you is if you were just looking at the human side of this, you're missing a lot. If you were just looking at the non-human side of this, you're also missing a ton. You really have to pay attention to both, and you have to pay attention to how they're connected. Every access key was created by a human, right? And when that access key then carries out an action programmatically, right, that's connected, back to that original creator or owner of that key as well. And the same thing like when we talk about Secrets Manager later on, you can store all sorts of things in Secrets Manager. That could be VPN connection strings. It could also be straight up long-lived access keys like we were just talking about, or OAuth tokens. Paying attention to who's checking those out, who's collecting them, who's exporting them, who created them. There's a human involved in that process. All right, let's click into kind of each of these layers a little bit more and talk about what they look like. So on the IDP side, this is largely a human portion of this with some small tidbits into NHI land. So first on the IDP side, they got to get a credential. How are they getting them? Buying, bribing, social engineering their way, maybe even some phishing, or just straight up, social engineering the help desk, right? They get a username, they get a password, often get an MFA reset that as well. And then on the other side of that, they are now able to register their own device and start coming in looking like a normal federated user. Now, some things that are different about recent cases with this is it's been less about phishing credentials. Been a lot of phishing infrastructure involved in previous attacks with this group. More recently, in the last couple of months, it is just call the help desk right away. Start off by doing a self-service password reset themselves so they can validate which authentication methods are available. And as a benefit of that, also see the last couple digits of your phone number associated with you when they go through that self-service password reset feature. Then just call the help desk. Now you have that validated phone number, maybe you have an employee ID, maybe you have some other information that this bad guy has collected to be able to convince your help desk that, yep, I'm the CFO, reset my password. I'm the high-level IT admin, reset my password. Also, I lost my phone, so I'm going to need you to reset my MFA as well so I can, re-register, right? So they get through that process. Well, we're not going to spend too much time on the IDP side here because I really want to get into where things start getting a little more fun and a little more related to the NHI side of the house, which is as soon as they click into SaaS applications, they're searching for more credentials. And one of my favorite ways to look for this is just by straight up looking for search terms. Search terms show intention. So when somebody is in SharePoint searching Okta underscore key, pretty sure that means they're searching for Okta credentials, right? Like there's not a whole lot of guessing left in here. And looking at these search terms, so all these terms you see here are actual scatter spider search terms we've seen in multiple cases. You get a good idea for what they want, right? You want there's Okta underscore key, root underscore password, S3 underscore access keys. These are all NHIs, right? That they're looking for here. So a lot of credential related searches. What else do we see in here though? Mini IO, that's interesting. Code signing, sign tool /L. Maybe they want to get to your code signing certs. That's something many companies are willing to pay a lot of money for. So not surprising that they would go after those. So okay, cool. We understand that. I see some security related things here as well. CrowdStrike API, endpoint URL, right? They're looking for the configuration of some of your security tooling. And then maybe even some vSphere ESXi. They love pivoting to on-prem through your vSphere infrastructure, through your EXI infrastructure. That's why we see those there, right? But search terms show intention. A quick aside here: a lot of the insider cases we look at, they're blown wide open. From this way as well with search terms, right? Just because you know exactly what somebody's wants based on what they're searching for, right? But that's not the only way NHIs are leveraged on the SaaS side, or NHIs are discovered even on the SaaS side. There are other things that are going on here too. Like for instance, when they click through the web interface into Confluence. Oftentimes what we see this group do is generate a personal access token. Same thing in GitHub, generate a personal access token so that they have an NHI associated with that human identity that they can keep using without having to worry about the MFAing in all the time. Or if somebody resets the password or finds out you're using my credential to perform some actions, they might reset the password of my account. But that doesn't stop that personal access token I generated from still working. So it's really important to know, particularly in an incident response scenario, when somebody is creating or accessing new NHIs, because often that is their way back in if you happen to find their federated access along that path. And when they're generating personal access tokens, well, oftentimes that sends an email to the victim or to the user, letting them know, like, hey, you just generated a personal access token. So one of the things this group likes to do is they'll make sure that email gets deleted right away as soon as that happens by setting up some Outlook rules to look for anytime there is personal access token in the subject or in the body of an email and just delete it so that the victim never is the wiser. Lots of other cool stuff in the SaaS side too. In the interest of time, I'm going to switch over here to AWS to give you a little bit of a feel of what's happening there. AWS side, this is where we start to see a lot of interaction on the NHI side, right? So initially clicking in through the web management console with their human identity is how they're starting their journey in AWS, assuming a role like you would expect. Very quickly, they want to get access to NHIs that allow them to have continued access to the environment if that federated access happens to go away. Right, so we talked about S3 browser and using long-lived access key with that already, but maybe the most impactful thing that occurs in many of these incidents with this particular group is using your PAM against you, right? Just essentially pulling every credential out of Secrets Manager or Terraform Vault or Azure Vault or wherever you happen to store your creds. They don't really care what solution you're using. They want to grab all the credentials out of there. So Secrets Manager harvesting is how they're doing that. They do it in kind of a unique way in AWS where they'll use Cloud Shell to touch Secrets Manager. It's not something we see very often legitimately. So when I see Cloud Shell touching Secrets Manager, I always get really interested. But now they have a ton of secrets outside of just what they can use even in AWS, but things that they could even touch your partners with. If you're storing secrets related to partner connections, for instance, in Secrets Manager. A lot of juicy things ends up being in there. So really interesting stuff on the AWS side. Highly recommend keeping a close eye on what's going on in Secrets Manager world. But this is an example of human identity being used to harvest NHIs, which they then leverage in the data theft on the EC2 side, but also in other places. Okay, I did a little bit of a speed run on that one. I hope that gives you a good idea of the types of ways you can see human identities and non-human identities being leveraged together in attacks. This is one example with one group. We see this all the time. Almost every incident that we come across nowadays is a blend of human and non-human identities. If you're interested in hearing more, definitely reach out and we can walk you through some more in the wild cases there. And again, my name is Ian. I'm the CTO here at Permiso. Please reach out and let us know how you like the presentation. Thanks.